Imagine a time long ago, before airplanes or even cars. People traveled by foot, animal or boat. The world seemed like a vast and mysterious place. Much of it remained unknown to Europeans. During this time, Europeans knew about parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa, but they had many questions. What lay beyond the known world? Were there new lands and people to discover? These questions fueled a thirst for exploration. The late 15th century marked the beginning of the Age of Exploration. Powerful European nations like Portugal and Spain led the way. They sponsored daring voyages into the unknown. These voyages were risky and dangerous. Sailors faced storms, disease, and the fear of the unknown. Yet the potential rewards were great. Explorers dreamed of finding new lands, riches, and fame. They were eager to make their mark on the world. Several factors drove the Age of Exploration. One major motivator was trade. Europeans had developed a taste for luxury goods from the East, particularly spices. Spices like pepper, cinnamon, and cloves were highly prized. They added flavor to food and were used in perfumes and medicines. These spices came from Asia, primarily India, and the Spice Islands, modern-day Indonesia. However, the journey was long and perilous. It involved traveling over land and sea, controlled by various middlemen. This made the spices extremely expensive. European explorers sought to find a sea route to Asia. They hoped to bypass the traditional land routes and gain direct access to the lucrative spice trade. This desire for wealth and control over trade routes fueled their expeditions. Besides spices, explorers also sought gold and other precious metals. The promise of riches attracted adventurers and investors alike. They dreamed of finding legendary cities of gold and returning home wealthy beyond imagination. Christopher Columbus, an Italian explorer, embodied the spirit of the Age of Exploration. He believed he could reach Asia by sailing west across the Atlantic Ocean. At the time, most people thought the world was flat. Columbus convinced King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain to fund his voyage. In 1492, he set sail with 3 ships, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. The journey was long and arduous. The crew faced storms, hunger, and doubts about ever reaching land. After more than 2 months at sea, they finally spotted land. On October 12, 1492, Columbus landed on an island in the Bahamas. He believed he had reached the East Indies, an archipelago off the coast of Asia. He called the native people he encountered Indians. Columbus explored several other islands in the Caribbean, including Cuba and Hispaniola, present-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic. He claimed these lands for Spain, believing they were part of Asia. Columbus returned to Spain a hero, celebrated for his discoveries. He had found a new route to the east, or so he thought. His voyages opened the door for further exploration and colonization of the Americas. However, Columbus's legacy is complex and controversial. He made 4 voyages to the Americas, each time believing he was in Asia. He never realized he had stumbled upon a new world. Columbus's arrival in the Americas had a devastating impact on the indigenous populations. Europeans brought diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza, which decimated the native people. They also enslaved indigenous populations and forced them to work in mines and on plantations. The exploitation and mistreatment of indigenous peoples during the Age of Exploration is a dark chapter in human history. It is essential to acknowledge the suffering inflicted upon these communities and recognize the lasting consequences of colonialism. Section 5. Magellan's Quest, circumnavigating the globe. While Columbus sought a westward route to Asia, another explorer, Ferdinand Magellan, had a bolder vision. He aimed to circumnavigate the globe, proving that the Earth was round. Magellan, a Portuguese explorer, convinced King Charles I of Spain to fund his expedition. In 1519, he set sail with 5 ships and a crew of around 270 men. Their goal was to find a westward passage to the Spice Islands. Magellan's voyage was fraught with peril. They faced storms, starvation, and hostile natives. They sailed across the Atlantic, explored the coast of South America, and endured a harrowing passage through a narrow strait that now bears Magellan's name. This strait, located at the southern tip of South America, connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. It was a treacherous passage, but it allowed Magellan's fleet to enter the Pacific, which he named Mar Pacifico, meaning peaceful sea in Portuguese. Section 6. The Perilous Voyage, Magellan's Challenges and Triumphs. After navigating the treacherous strait, Magellan and his crew sailed across the vast Pacific Ocean. Their journey across the Pacific was even more challenging than their Atlantic crossing. They faced starvation, scurvy, and mutiny. Supplies dwindled, and many crew members perished. Despite these hardships, Magellan's expedition eventually reached the Philippines. They established contact with the local inhabitants. However, Magellan's involvement in a local conflict led to his death in a battle on the island of Mactan in 1521. Only one of Magellan's 5 ships, the Victoria, and a small crew of 18 survivors completed the circumnavigation of the globe. They arrived back in Spain in 1522, 3 years after they had set sail. Section 7, 2 Explorers, 2 Legacies, comparing Magellan and Columbus. Both Columbus and Magellan were daring explorers who made groundbreaking voyages during the Age of Exploration. However, their expeditions differed in their goals, achievements, and legacies. Columbus sought a westward route to Asia, but stumbled upon the Americas. His voyages initiated the European colonization of the New World, leading to the exchange of goods, ideas, and diseases between the Eastern and Western hemispheres. Magellan, on the other hand, aimed to circumnavigate the globe, proving its spherical shape. His expedition, though he did not survive it, achieved this goal, expanding European knowledge of the world's geography and demonstrating the interconnectedness of the continents. While both explorers are remembered for their courage and seamanship, their legacies are also intertwined with the negative consequences of colonialism, including the exploitation and suffering of indigenous populations. Section 8, A World Transformed, The Impact of Exploration. The voyages of Columbus, Magellan, and other explorers during the Age of Exploration had a profound impact on the world. These expeditions led to a dramatic expansion of European knowledge of the globe. They opened up new trade routes and fueled the rise of global trade. The discovery of the Americas had far-reaching consequences. It led to the colonization of the New World by European powers, transforming the political and demographic landscape of the Americas. The influx of European settlers, African slaves, and their interactions with indigenous populations created new societies and cultures. The Age of Exploration also marked a shift in the balance of power. European nations, particularly Spain and Portugal, amassed wealth and influence through their colonial possessions. This period laid the foundation for the rise of European dominance on the world stage. Section 9, The Columbian Exchange, a Biological Revolution. One of the most significant consequences of the Age of Exploration was the Columbian Exchange. This term refers to the widespread transfer of plants, animals, diseases, and people between the Eastern and Western hemispheres following Columbus's voyages. The Columbian Exchange had a profound impact on the environments, economies, and societies of both hemispheres. New crops, such as potatoes, tomatoes, and corn, were introduced to Europe, revolutionizing agriculture and nutrition. Conversely, European livestock, including horses, cattle, and pigs, were introduced to the Americas. These animals transformed transportation, agriculture, and the diets of indigenous populations. However, the Columbian Exchange also facilitated the spread of diseases. European diseases, such as smallpox, measles, and influenza, devastated indigenous populations in the Americas who had no immunity to these diseases. This demographic collapse had a profound impact on indigenous societies and cultures. Section 10. A New Era, The Dawn of Globalization. The Age of Exploration marked the beginning of globalization. It interconnected the world's continents and oceans, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and people on an unprecedented scale. This period laid the foundation for the globalized world we live in today. The voyages of Columbus, Magellan, and other explorers expanded European knowledge of the world, fueled the growth of global trade, and led to the exchange of cultures and ideas. However, this period also witnessed the darker sides of colonialism, including the exploitation of indigenous populations and the transatlantic slave trade. The legacy of the Age of Exploration is complex and multifaceted. It is a story of exploration, discovery, and human ingenuity. But it is also a story of conquest, exploitation, and the clash of cultures. Section 11, Conclusion. The Enduring Legacy of Exploration. The Age of Exploration continues to shape our world today. The discoveries made during this period transformed our understanding of the planet and led to the interconnected world we live in. The Columbian Exchange, for example, continues to influence our diets, agriculture, and ecosystems. The legacies of explorers like Columbus and Magellan are complex and often controversial. While they are celebrated for their courage and seamanship, their voyages also had devastating consequences for indigenous populations. As we reflect on the age of exploration, it is essential to acknowledge both the positive and negative aspects of this period. We must learn from the past and strive to create a more just and equitable world, recognizing the interconnectedness of all people and the importance of respecting different cultures and perspectives. The spirit of exploration, however, remains a powerful force. It drives us to explore new frontiers, push the boundaries of knowledge, and seek a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe we inhabit. From exploring the depths of the oceans to venturing into outer space, the human thirst for discovery continues to shape our world.